Welcome to Lair, the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, albums that have a creepy, dark, scary vibe to them. With Halloween coming up, I thought this would be a fun episode to do. These albums have this feel, vibe to them, tone to them. A lot of times it's because of the production of the album, the songwriting, the performances, the lyrics, the album cover, whatever, the entire package. All right, here we go. Maybe it all starts with this one, the first Black Sabbath album. When I was a little kid, this album cover used to scare me. Actually, where I grew up, there was a house in the woods that sort of looked like this, and it had like kind of a little man-made lake or moat-like thing in front of it, and it was buried deep in the woods. And sometimes I would go back and just stare at this house and think about this album cover. But the album has a whole, oh, and then of course, you know, the girl on the front, it just makes it scary too. And the whole album has just a lot of like reverb and atmosphere to it. It sounds like it was recorded in a church or something. The song Black Sabbath with those primitive tribal drums and Ozzy's vocal performance, NIB, even things like Sleeping Village. That's the kind of stuff that scared me as a kid, you know, that mouth harp sound at the beginning and just Ozzy's voice and just the whole vibe of the whole thing. I just think the whole album has a real sort of creepy overtone to it. All right, next, Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare. If you got Vincent Price on one of your songs doing a speaking part, you know it's got to be creepy. The master of horror there. The song Black Widow, Devil's Food, the title track, Welcome to My Nightmare. Alice always makes me think of the 70s. So when Alice does scary stuff, it makes me think of like Friday Night, you know, horror movies, Sven Gulli, these guys that used to do these late night horror shows. Always reminds me. Alice always makes me think of that. All right, Mercyful Fate, Melissa. This one, maybe it's King Diamond's over-the-top falsetto. Just the intensity of some of these songs, the scary album cover, titles like Evil, Curse of the Pharaohs, At the Sound of the Demon Bell, Black Funeral, and the title track, Melissa. The way King does that whispered vocal part at the end of that song is just totally creepy. So this whole album just has a scary vibe to it for me. All right, next, kind of along those same lines, how about Venom, Black Metal? This album recorded very primitively, but with things like Buried Alive and the title track, Black Metal, To Hell and Back, Raise the Dead. You know, just the whole album, it sounds like it's very cavernous, like it's very sort of clanky and noisy, but again, it sounds like it was recorded in a cave or something, which gives it this real sort of scary vibe to me, you know, throw in the album cover also. All right, here's one that reminds me of the first Black Sabbath album, the first Candlemass album, Epicus Doomicus Metallicus. This one has a lot of reverb-like sound to it, again, like it was recorded in a big echoey church or something. That the song Solitude with that 12-string guitar at the beginning and that ominous keyboard line, Sorcerer's Pledge, Demon's Gate. There's like a creepy spoken word thing at the beginning of it. This is just one of my favorite albums of all time, and it's just got a ton of great creepy vibe to it and atmosphere. All right, doom metal. The genre of doom metal is built on this whole thing, atmosphere and ominous, creepy overtones and vibes. So I picked a couple of CDs here that do that for me. Pentagram, Be Forewarned. This one's really kind of claustrophobic sounding, and it's just got a lot of cool down-tuned riffing. Paramecium, Exhumed of the Earth. I think that's the title, Exhumed of the Earth. This is an early death doom album, slow, down-tuned guitars with growling vocals. Maybe it's the album cover that just makes me think of like Cemetery Angels and that kind of scary feeling. Reverend Bizarre and the Rectory of the Bizarre Reverend. This is another really cold album. It's, it had to come from Scandinavia, right? An album like this couldn't have come from somewhere warm. It just has a cold, dark feeling to the whole thing. Awesome record. My Dying Bride, The Angel on the Dark River. I could also have went with Turn Loose the Swans. Both those albums, I couldn't find my copy of Turn Loose the Swans. Both of them with the violin and the female vocals and sometimes the growling and the super slow stuff. It just has this real feel to it that just carries through pretty much all their albums. All right, and then the last one I got here, well, actually, no, I do have another one that I don't have the CD for, is Typo Negative, Bloody Kisses. That album, wow. Peter Steele's vocals there, his super low bass voice adds this, like, it's like Count Dracula, as a lead vocalist or something. And just the way the album is mixed, it has an awesome mix to it. And the title track to that album is just incredible in my opinion. Bloody Kisses, A Death in the Family. It's super long, and man, it straddles this line between like metal and gothic music and the keyboards and the textures and the atmosphere of it. It's just like a perfect Halloween album. All right, and then the last one I have, this may be a little controversial, but I think that the first Ghost album has a lot of atmosphere and vibe to it. It's kind of scary. When it came out, you didn't know what was going on with these guys, who they were, what they were about, but things like the opening track, Deus Culpa, Conclave con Dio, Ritual, Elizabeth, just awesome to me. When I first heard this, it just sounded like some 70s horror movie to me, and I loved it. All right, there you go. There's a bunch, I didn't count here, but a bunch of albums that have kind of a creepy, ominous, scary, dark horror movie, Halloween vibe to them. Let me know some albums down below in the comments that you think fit that description, that have that feel and vibe to them. And until we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.